Hey guys, so I have been dragging my feet on telling my testimony, and I want to share that today because I feel good today, and you should just want to share your stuff when you feel good, but I feel good, and it lets me know that I'm supposed to be sharing this today because I've been through some things, and without God being by my side, without me putting God first in my life, and not always following His will, but putting God first in my life and knowing that God is the author and finisher of everything that is Ashley. I have to share my testimony today. And we will start from the very beginning, because everybody doesn't know that in 2018, I'm a newlywed at this point. I lose my job, so I have benefits, but only for like 30 days or something like that. And then Cobra starts, and when you're on unemployment, who can really afford Cobra, right? So I'm like, I gotta get these fibroids out before my insurance is up. So I go to get the fibroids to do the whole testing and everything. So they're doing the sonogram to see how big the fibroids are. The doctor had already told me that my uterus was the size, because of the fibroids, it was already the size of somebody who was 4 months pregnant. That's what the doctor told me at the time. Just based on the exam, the first exam. And so we do the sonogram just to get confirmation of the size of the fibroids. And so as we doing it, the sonographer, she's asking me, she was like, when was your last period? And I was like, yeah. So I told her when it was, and she was like, oh, okay. But her oh, okay gave me pause, and I was just like, So I went home, told my husband, I was like, hey, I don't know what that was about, but now maybe we should be testing. So he went, got tests, multiple tests, because I said get multiple. Because now I'm in panic mode, because remember, I lost my job. And positive tests. They confirmed that I'm pregnant. So we go through the channels of what we have to do and, follow up. I am extremely sick this whole entire pregnancy. Extremely sick. Vomiting. I'm losing weight. I'm losing weight to the point where I looked very, very, very sick. Very sick. If you weren't looking at me from the front, you didn't know I was pregnant. And I had lost so much weight that the clothes before I was pregnant couldn't fit me, being pregnant. And I was very, very much pregnant. I remember I was on, because we didn't switch insurances. I'm still, So my insurance had got cut off at one point. We're about to try to switch everything over, but it's like 30 days I have to wait. But before this time period, the doctors are telling me, hey, we did some blood work, and the blood work we did, we thought that that you, like the baby, that your body was attacking the baby, because mind you, they don't know what's going on with me. Why are you so sick? And I'm like, oh, okay. They did the blood work. And they said, but that's not the case. The baby is not attacking. You're not attacking the baby. Your body is actually attacking itself. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, you tested positive for lupus antibodies. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have that. Just straight off the bat. No, not me. And they're like, well, we need you to see autoimmune doctor or whatever, a rheumatologist or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, okay, so I'm, call around. Oh, these appointments were hard to get. And they're like, okay, so this is in June, July, I'm told this. So at this point, I'm due in November. And I'm told that I gotta wait until October, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. If I have what you say I have, right, then I need to know now, to make sure me and baby is safe. I set up the appointment, put myself on the wait list to see if anybody canceled, that I would come in whenever, right? But August, I go to the doctor because I'm like, oh, there's, minimal movement, but also because I thought I had an appointment. I thought I had an appointment. And the young lady at the desk, she was like, oh, we don't have this appointment for you. We switched it, remember? And I'm like, no, I don't remember, but I thought I had it. So she was like, but if you have minimal movement, we're going to go ahead and admit you into labor and delivery to just monitor you. I'm like, okay, that's good. So the young lady, she came in, she's monitoring, I got undressed, she's doing everything. She was like, okay, I'm going to have to get the doctor. And I'm like, okay. I didn't like the way that sounded. And then the doctor came in and she's checking. She was like, oh, okay, just give us a second, we're going to go and we're going to get the thing. And so then the next doctor came in. This is the head doctor that was on the floor that day. He comes in and he's like, okay, well, who are you here with? That's what he said. And I was like, oh, I'm by myself, my husband's at work or whatever. And he was like, well, we couldn't find a heartbeat. And I'm like, what? No, you gotta check again. He was like, no, man, the doctor, the nurse before, the first nurse checked, the doctor before me checked, and I'm the final person to check, and there's no heartbeat. And I'm like, no, not possible. Just in denial. And they're like, well, call who you need to call, whatever. And so I called my sister first. And I'm like, listen, I can't tell him this because this is going to kill him. This is going to hurt him, And she was like, you have to call him and tell him, but I'm on my way. So I called my husband. I tell him what's happening. And he said he's coming, he's coming to the hospital. And we delivered a beautiful girl. She was beautiful. Oh, and she looked like me. And the funny thing about her looking like me is I had a dream 2 months before all of this transpired. And it was the doctor. I had gave birth, and the doctors was giving me a baby. They gave me a baby. And I looked down and I said, oh my goodness. She looked like my mother-in-law and my husband's, it would have been his youngest daughter at the time. And I said, she looked just like them. I said, wow, she's beautiful or whatever, but his DNA is taking over, right? In the dream, this is what happened. So when I looked down at her and I was like, oh, she looks like me. That was important. Like, she looks like me. This ain't the baby that I dreamed about. But I didn't even know the significance of that, right? And I'm like, okay, we gave birth. It was, as you can imagine, a traumatic experience. I would say it became a little bit more traumatic, based on what the doctors decided to do, but that's not a part of my testimony, so we're not going to talk about that. We could talk about that another time. But I ended up getting an infection. They could not confirm where it came from. They could not find anything. They looked for blood clots or whatever, what have you. And I had to stay in the hospital for 4 days after I delivered the baby. So Monday I delivered her. I wasn't out the hospital till Friday. And that was hard. I went home and stayed home, did whatever I, needed to do. I mourned, I grieved. I asked God why. I said, me, why me? What did I do? And we grieved and we stayed home. We had decided to cremate. So the people called us, the funeral home called us to pick up her ashes. It was a Friday. I think it was like September 14th or something like that. And they said, come, the ashes, everything is ready and, whatever. So we had ordered the urn and so I said, okay, we're going to come. We're going to, come. His best friend took us and we went. But the whole time I'm sick. But I have an appointment after this, so it doesn't matter. So they're telling me in the car, like, listen, you don't need to go to that appointment. You need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm good, right? We get the baby's ashes. The funeral director, they was able to set everything up for us so we wouldn't have to do it ourselves at home. Everybody was very accommodating. After we leave, we decide that we're going to go to the hospital instead of my doctor's appointment, my regular doctor's appointment, because I'm like having trouble breathing and I'm just not feeling well. We get in, and when we get in, the intake people, they're like, oh, how are you doing? What's going on? I'm telling them, they take my pressure. And she's like, you tachycardia. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? So basically, my heart was racing over 100 beats per minute. I couldn't tell, but that's what was happening, right? And they're like, oh, you got to come in right away. And so I went in. This is the ER. They set me up and they doing testing. My pressure was high. I can't remember how high, but my pressure was high. They come in and they start talking to me. I let them know, we just had a stillbirth at 28 weeks. And, this happened like 10 days ago, or, around this time. It was like about 10 days difference. 10, 15 days. And I'm like, we just had the stillbirth, whatever. And they're like, oh, okay, we're sorry to hear that. And the nurse is like, you're blue. And I'm like, I'm blue? You don't even know who I am. How you could tell based on my skin color that I'm blue? And so they do blood work. And my hemoglobin is a 4. And I can't remember what the normal level is, but it's not a 4. 4 was just extremely low. And I have to backtrack because I missed a step. When we had the traumatic experience of delivering, my husband asked the doctor, he said, that looks like a lot of blood. And she was like, no, blood is fine. He was like, this is not my first child. This looks like a lot of blood. Essentially, I had lost so much blood between the time that I delivered the baby, the time that I was in the hospital for those 4 days, the time that I was home, to this point where I'm back in a different hospital because I refused to go back to the first one, a different hospital. I had lost so much blood that I needed a blood transfusion. So they told me, we have to sign these documents. You need a blood transfusion. I'm like nervous because I'm like, oh, I never had, any of these type of health scares, right? So they're like, you need a blood transfusion. Okay. Get the blood transfusion. Then they come back and they're like, okay, well, we have to take you to do a CAT scan because, something else is not right, because I couldn't walk I couldn't walk more than 3 feet without like being out of breath. And then something is not right. You have to go to do the CAT scan. So we go to do the CAT scan. I come back. They telling my husband, first they asked me, they like, is there any history of breast cancer in your family? And I'm like, well, yeah. And I explained to them the history. They're like, well, that's too much history. So then they start telling my husband I have cancer. Then they're like, oh, okay, well, also we see that she has blood clot in her lungs. So we need to put her on blood thinners. Let's not forget that I hemorrhaged, basically. I lost blood and I need a blood transfusion. We need to put her on blood thinners because she has the blood clot in her lungs. Also, because we just did the sonogram of her heart, her aorta is enlarged. My husband's like, what? And I'm like, what? Y'all just telling us too much stuff. You sure? Because y'all just adding on. Everything's just adding on, right? We do the blood they start the blood transfusion. They start me on the blood thinners. After the blood transfusion, my levels still weren't high enough. And then my iron was low. Also makes sense. So then I had to do iron infusion, whatever, through IV. I'm doing all of this. And they come in and they tell me I have a blood clotting disorder. They confirm that I have lupus. And they're still trying to figure out if I have cancer. So thank God we figured out there was no cancer. My lymph nodes were swollen because I just had a baby, but also because I was in the middle of having a lupus flare. So everything was inflamed. So could be mixed up because of that, right? But we found out about the aortic root. Every day they running tests, doing all of these tests. I stayed in the hospital for 10 days. And I'm over it at this point. I'm over it. They're telling me I have a blood clotting disorder, and then I'm like, no, I don't. Let's make sure everything, because then they're telling me that I would have to be on a medication that would essentially make me have to get my blood tested every week to make sure the levels are correct and everything. And I'm like, listen, I just lost a child. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And yeah, so this all transpired in 2018 within less than 30 days. So we found all of this out. What I will say is the doctor told me, had I not been pregnant, mind you, I went for my physicals every year. Did everything. If anything came up, I went to the doctor. I didn't play that. But had I not gotten pregnant, had I not lost a baby, had there not been all these kookananny things going on inside of me, inside of my body at one time, they would not have run certain tests. They would not have found out that I had an enlarged aorta. They would not have found out that I had lupus. None of this, right? Had I not been pregnant. So I say it all the time. My daughter came. God sent her here to save my life. Because if it was not for her, I would not be here today. If it was not for her, my 3 daughters that are living here on earth would not be here today. And I thank God for that. I thank God who am I that you would think enough to save me in that way? And as much as I grieve her, I think about what her personality would be, how she would have interacted with us, and all of these things, even as I watch her sisters grow up. Because I don't want to say I discard her, because I don't. I think about how I celebrate her every time the date comes around. But I thank God for her and how she came and saved my life. And I just want to fast track, because now, all of this happened in New York. Now we're in Delaware, and now it is 2021. And December of 2021, I found out I'm pregnant with my second child on earth. And, well, I'm moving too fast. Moving too fast. 2019 was a hard year, because I was trying, after I got off the blood thinners, I was trying tremendously hard to get pregnant. And it was hard. I want to tell you, every time I got a period, I cried. Hard. Even in that, I said, God, I know what you said, but can you hurry up, please? Like, I need to feel okay, Everybody around me having babies, and I just want my baby, And I will never forget this. My nephew came over, and he was like, Auntie Ashley, I want you to have a baby here on earth, right? Well, my sister told me he said that. But then I remember he was playing with my stomach. He was like, you so squishy, right? And I'm laughing because I'm like, kids are crazy, right? But the next week, I have a dream. And in my dream, my parents are, and I've had dreams my whole life, right? But in this dream, my parents, my mom, we're in this like small room, or small like apartment type of area, and my mom she's coming out of the back room, and when she comes out the back room, I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, I'm aware in a dream, like, yo, we're not supposed to be in the same place at the same time, so how is you here, right? And there's a pot of water boiling on the stove, and she comes and she looks at me and she says, are you rested? And I was like, yeah, she was like, did you get good sleep? And I was like, I did, I got good sleep. And she was like, good, because you needed it. And then immediately I hear something behind me, and as I turn around, I see my dad coming up the stairs, and I'm looking like, we not. But I'm not saying nothing, right? This is all in my head that I'm saying is inside of the dream, but I'm very aware that neither one of my parents should be where I am, right? And I come, my dad comes, he has a burping cloth on his shoulder, and he has a baby in his hands. And I look at him, and he like, child, if you know my father, child was his favorite thing. He like, child, I'm glad you got some sleep, because this baby done kept me up all night here. And then gave me the baby, right? And I'm like, and I like, kind of like, like, here, take the baby, right? And I grabbed the baby quickly. And as I grabbed the baby, I'm looking down, and I'm like, wow, this is a beautiful baby. And I'm still confused, like, what is going on? What's happening? Whose baby is this? And my arm went over the boiling water, and I'm holding the baby like this, so the foot is on this side. And so my arm went over the boiling water. I was nervous about the baby's foot, so I jumped, and I like turned my body, but like jerked myself. And when I did that, I jumped up out of my sleep. Like, I literally sat up out of my sleep. And